All right, it is May 6, 2026, and it is 7 p.m. I call this meeting to order. Item 201, we will open the public hearing, and I will turn it over to Chief Financial Officer Eric Thompson.
All right. President Windsor, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, thanks for having me tonight for the budget revision hearing. So this is a revision of the current year budget. So we are 90% of the way through the budget. So it really is an update more on the funding side. So the funding is based on enrollment and different numbers like that, and that's what the budget is made from. So all school districts in Arizona will have a revision this time of year before May 15th to revise the budget based on the numbers from the first 100 days of school. So we're not really doing spending adjustment on this one as much as the revenue adjustment for it. So when we're putting the budget together, there's really two weights that we look at for that, and that's just what the funding formula calls them. So Group A is all students, so that's what we would think of as our enrollment. Okay, that's every student is going to be in the Group A weight. Then you're going to have the Group B weights, and this is going to get important because those have different weights. So a student who has a lot of needs could have a weight of the equivalent of 6 students. So where we would get paid for 1 student, this other student that has the higher needs, we would get paid for an additional 6 students for that 1 student. So it generates a lot more revenue on that one. So there's the Group A weights, which is the regular enrollment, and then the Group B weights, which are the additional enrollments or additional funding because those students require more cost to educate. So overall, our enrollment is going down, as we've talked about in many meetings previous to this. Regular enrollment is going down, sped enrollment is going up. So they're counteracting each other a little bit. So even with the decrease in the regular enrollment, our special education population is increasing pretty rapidly. So we have done a better job identifying them earlier. Talking with our special education director, we've done a better job with Child Find, making sure that all of the diagnoses are documented. So we have done a better job of getting them in quicker. If we're providing the services, we make sure that we're seeing all the possible disabilities that they might have. So this is not all of the weights that we have, but this is a few of them to show you kind of what we're talking about here. So that first line, total ADM, that is our enrollment. Now again, we have more than 9,000 students because kindergartners only count as a half. The state only funds us at half. So if you add another 600 students for kindergarten, we'd be up over the 9,000 there. But overall, we're down 223 students. If you look at the bottom 2 lines though, or even the hearing impaired line, and look at the weight column, that's where we make up a lot of the funding loss. So we'll just use that bottom column because it'll be the bottom row, it'll be easier. The MDA, SDI, self-contained, that's the SC. We increased by 36 students this year over last year. Each of those students is the equivalent on the funding side of about 6 students, the 5.988. So when you multiply the 36 by the 5.988, it's the equivalent of gaining 216 students. So even though the total enrollment's going down, because we have more higher need students, the funding is counteracting because we have more Group B weight on the other side. So that's kind of the overall big picture of what we're looking at for the budget is the funding's kind of staying steady, and we've identified more and more students throughout the year. So at the beginning of the year, we saw the initial decline in the enrollment. Then more students were identified throughout the year, which kind of made up for that. So, but you look at the initial dip when we had the first couple months, that was low, and then those sped weights kind of kicked in to bring it back up. Does that make sense? It's kind of complicated on the weights, but essentially, because they're weighted more, they're making up for the loss in the overall enrollment. So we have about $114 million available to spend. Again, 103 of that is the continuing funding, and then we have those rollover dollars, the carryover amount. So that's kind of the savings account that we have in there. Capital, very similar. We get this year we got $7 million from the capital override. We carried over $11 million into the year. So we're pretty flush in that one and looking okay. So as we said before, we'll spend more in M&O this year than we're bringing in, but we have those reserves. The increase in the SPED numbers have increased the revenue. And as we already made those cuts kind of early in the year, we're in a pretty good shape going forward, even though we are overall declining in enrollment. All right. If there are any questions, we have.
Mr. Cherry.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for that. I appreciate it. Do you know why we've had such an increase in our SPED students?
I think part of it is we're doing a better job of identifying them. The other thing is, as public schools, and I think every public, well, most every, I don't want to speak for every district, but we take the students, as opposed to maybe a charter or a private school, has different rules that they have to be under. But we had a better job of making sure we did this year of identifying the students to make sure that they were labeled correctly in the system as well, because there were times where you look at it and they're receiving the services for a student at a much higher weight, but they're not in that category. So we evaluate that, take a look at it, and try to make sure it's all correct, and we identified a few that were mislabeled, and so we get additional funding that way. So we've done a better job of doing that. The child fines, like I talked about, we've done a better job of identifying those students earlier in the year, so we get that funding as well.
Great. And then my second question, so we get more money because they do cost more. Is that, I mean, are we still, like, what's the net? Is it a net loss or a net gain for us after that?
It depends on, it depends on a lot. Depends on how many kids are in that classroom. If you can add one extra kid in there, but you don't have to add staffing, then you can get more revenue on that. If it's a small classroom and you don't have as many kids to make up for the funding that you have, then we might be losing money on it. Overall, net, the general ed population supplements the special education population.
Thank you.
Mr. Elliman.
Thank you, Madam President. That was my question. So we take from all the population to handle what the state doesn't give us for the special education students.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Yours.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. Cherry, for asking that question. One of my main concerns, though, is that the public hears that we make more off of those students, and a lot of those students, we would like to even provide more for them, which is the frustrating part. There's a lot of principals that are in the room right now. And so one, I was grateful that we brought on a superintendent a few years ago that came from the special education world. I think it is a valuable asset for our district that a lot of districts don't have. So I'm grateful that you have utilized these programs and your strengths to make sure that we get in there and we find how we can help kids learn. We've discussed at a board many times that all students are capable of learning. Some of them just need different pathways. So yes, and I don't want the state legislature to also hear that they're giving us more per student, so we should be okay, because some of those students we can barely help serve. So thank you for bringing that up, but I just want to make that clear for the 7 people that watch our YouTube channel. The other thing that I had a question on is our carryover. So we can only pull from carryover for so long. And I know that we had talked about it back at the end of last year on our carryover and how much resource we're going to pull. based on what we have now, because obviously we have no plus carryover going into this year, taking from before, when do you find it a critical emergency that there will be no extra funds to help supplement our needs?
Well, I think that was what the case we were in this year, and that 7 million that we cut. So I wouldn't say it's critical, but we made those cuts because we would have been out in 2 years if we had not made that. So because we have taken those steps, it's going to be too far to project based on enrollment and funding and all of that. So I think we're comfortable in the next few years on that, because, and we should be, because we have reduced the expenses moving forward, we should be spending at approximately the level that we're bringing revenue in. Now, if the enrollment decreases more, then that we'd have to reevaluate that, but we've taken those steps in the past year.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that you were able to let the community and especially our employees and staff know that we had to make a lot of critical changes this year, but in order to have a longer term viability. And I know at your schools right now, you're seeing teachers who are leaving and aren't going to be able to come back. And I know some of them are retiring early, and I know that some of them aren't getting the exact jobs that they wanted before. And just, I want to say as a board member, I can't speak for all of the board, but when we look at these budgets and we have these situations and we are paid this way, I hate that our teachers and staff are compensated on a yearly basis. There's just no, Arizona is not doing this right. And it's not consistent. And frankly, it doesn't help us retain the best of the best. So I want to make sure that the public knows that not only enrollment is affecting us, but the fact that the legislature isn't fully funding our schools. And we've already proven it, and we've won lawsuits on it. And this current legislature is supposed to be fixing it, and they're kicking the can down the road again. And I want you all to know and let your staff know that we're aware of this, and we are hopefully influencing Mr. Thompson, Dr. Driscoll, and Mr. McGinney to do the best they can to make it the least stressful on all of you.
And one thing I just want to make sure, I don't want to paint a huge rose-colored picture here, but because of those higher Group B weights, the revenue is coming in higher than we had projected earlier in the year. So when Mr. McGinney talks about IBN, there was a little bit more money
I
in
saw
there.
that, a
So
few little things.
We'll just use that as a tease for the future presentation. But
So yeah, there's more to
it
come
does-
in this
it does
meeting,
help,
but
you know, when we can identify more of those students to get that increased weight. It's better than it was in October.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
yeah. And please, everyone in the public, come check out our schools. Have babies, come see us.
In that order?
Have babies next year.
Oh, there we go. Dr. Driscoll?
I just want to just make a clarification too. That's if everything in the funding formula stays the same. If they change the weights, if they change things that they give us, that there could be some fluctuations in that. And right now, I just think it came out today, the governor rejected the proposed budget that was brought to her. And so there's still some stuff out there that if that doesn't get approved, some of the weights that we're talking about might go away, which then would put us in a different situation for next year when we come back and say, hey, you know how we said this? Now we're getting 1 for 1. And then another thing with special education, so people just know, it costs districts more money than we actually get from supplements like these weights for special education students. It costs us more money to educate a student that requires specialized services than we get. And to Mr. Lemon's point, we do use general ed fund and supplement M&O funds on top of that, because people will read like, oh, you get money for students that receive disabilities. We do, but it doesn't cover what it costs us to actually educate those students.
And just to follow up, Dr. Driscoll, I don't know if you know, but they decided to go on recess for the next month because nobody can do their job. So, thank you for listening.
Seeing no other questions from the other board members, I have a few questions. I was wanting to know if, Mr. Thompson, you can provide an example of the cost to educate a special education student in any category versus the weighted ADM revenue that we generate from that student. And if it's a board briefing, that's fine too.
To get a better answer for all the additional costs, I would just say, right off the top of my head, the class sizes are much smaller. The teachers and the services that we are providing tend to be on the more expensive side as well.
Could you give an example of some of the extra services we pay for?
So if you have a speech pathologist, for example, those average salaries, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's higher than the average salary of a teacher, of the average teacher. We have OTs,
Hold on,
PTs.
can you explain real quick why we do that? Why do we pay them more than a teacher?
Well, that's a good way to segue into IBN as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Part of
I'm
it
aware of that.
is, if you really get back to the fundamental of it, these students have IEPs, individual education plans, saying that they need these specific services. And so we have to provide those services. And if we do not have a higher salary for those teachers, those speech pathologists, for example, we still have to provide those services. So we would then pay a contract company, and that contract company could easily be $135,000 a year that we're paying for that. And because that's in the IEP, we have to provide those services. Those students need those services. So to try to save some money, we have increased the starting salary of a lot of those positions, like the speech path or the psychologists, to try to have more of them in-house to save us money. So if we can pay them more, but it's still less than the $130,000 for the contract company, they're gonna be making more than an average teacher's salary, because it's still saving us money overall from having to pay a contract company for that. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Actually, I was assuming you were gonna go down the direction of industry standard.
Oh,
If you have a speech pathologist who could be hired at a hospital at a certain rate of pay and we can't come close to it, we'll never get him hired. And then the universities do the same. If you're a law professor, you're getting paid, even if you have the same amount of years of service, the same amount of publications, you're going to be paid a higher than average salary than the humanities professor.
yes.
Because there's industry standards. And that's why we do these internal assessments and pay for people to come in and make sure that we are within the industry standard in order for us to be competitive enough in order to save that money to avoid the contract, but still maintain qualified employees. Okay, real just fun fact, read today that Arizona ranking at 49th in funding for education. It would take a 50% increase in the budget to make us, move us to national average, not even at the top. So just fun fact on that one. Another question I have is, does identification of a student mid-year receive retro funding?
It depends on when we will start those services. So if we are starting the services, we can change it in the student information system to when those services when they were identified and the services were provided.
So if you identify somebody in the last week of school, you're not gonna get the full school years,
Correct.
even though you've been taking care of them through, because there's a full process before we even identify a child, right?
This is a very long process.
Very lengthy, lots of documentation, lots of interventions. It is no small act of Congress to identify a child for this, so. And identification is not funded separately, correct, by the state? They don't give us extra money to identify special education students. We only get the money if they are actually identified, correct?
Correct.
And then have staff ratios kept up with the increase in special education students in those special education classes? If we've had that many students, that's had to have impacted class ratios.
I will say it this way, that we definitely tried to maintain those ratios in classrooms, and we continue to monitor because those numbers fluctuate. And so Just like regular classrooms where we wish they came in perfect packages of 25, they don't. And so those numbers fluctuate, so a lot of times it's very imperfect. So we do our very best to make sure those ratios are kept.
Great, thank you.
And we do have caseload overages for some of our special education teachers. So if they are over that amount, they do get additional income for that.
I also would chime in on that too, is that we still see where you talk about teacher shortages in the special education realm, we still see it across the board. And as we keep increasing these salaries up, we're getting close to that point where it's almost gonna be cheaper to go with a contracted person than it actually is to hire people in-house, because one of the things people don't realize that when we put it on, I wanna say we put it on the contracts, that we also pay benefits on that. So it's not just the salary, it's the benefits as well, which then brings that up. And so as we keep inching up those salaries, we're gonna get to the point where it's like, it might be cheaper to go with a contracted person than it is to hire an internal, until the contracted people realize that and then raise up the rate again, and then we go in our own race.
Yeah. I also think a misunderstanding of staff when they hear we pay benefits on top of that, they assume that it's like when we buy our insurance, we pay a flat rate per month, and that's not how benefits are calculated for staff. Can you explain how benefits are calculated for staff?
So with ASRS, FICA, workers' compensation, you can add, the easy math is adding 20% to your salary. So if you're making, we'll just say 100,000 for easy math, if your salary is 100,000, that is costing the district $120,000. Then we also have the healthcare contributions that we contribute, which is about $10,000. So that employee that has a salary of 100,000, the district is really paying $130,000 for that employee. So
It's percentage based.
the 20% is percentage based, but the 10,000 for health insurance.
Right.
If you make 20,000 a year, we're paying 10,000 for health insurance. If you make 200,000 a year, we're paying 10,000 for health insurance. So it's percentage and flat on both of those.
Okay. All right. Seeing no more lights, I will thank Mr. Thompson for your time and the information and close the public hearing. Item 301, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge. All right, we have a proposed amendment to the agenda. We'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda with the edit of moving 902 up to 702, so that the committee who does interest-based negotiations doesn't have to wait all the way to the end to see the governing board take action on what they present. Y'all like that? Okay, we thought you might.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the change of item 9.02, move it up to be discussed in, after item 7.01.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lemon and seconded by Mr. Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. That doesn't mean you have to leave. We would love if you would like to stay, but we don't want to hold you hostage, so. Item 401, approval modification minutes from the April 15th governing board meeting and study session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. Item 402, approval modification minutes from the April 15th, 2026 executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. Consent agenda 501. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. I'd like to thank John Brewski, Strider Bikes, All Abilities Bikes, Blue Watermelon Project, and Bio Ridge Pharma for their donations totaling more than $19,000 for our students and staff. Love that it's such strong community support. Item 601, Dr. Driscoll, we will turn it, oh,
Madam
Mr. Terry.
President, do you mind, I just wanted to point something out here. When I was looking at the personnel file here on the second page, I just saw that we have a classified transfer from an IA in the SEALS program to a certified teacher in the SEALS program. So this person is at Scales Technology Academy. Her name is Emily Scott. So first of all, congratulations. I know that you had to go through the certifications to become the teacher of record. But SEALS is a tough assignment. It really is. It's self-contained special ed, and somebody was an IA in that program and decided, I want to do this even more, and then they got the certificate to be the teacher of record. And I just think that's really special. That jumped out at me, so I just wanted to recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you, good pointing out. And we love growing our own too. That's wonderful. All right, now, Dr. Driscoll, we'll turn over to you for 601.
How do you follow that? All right. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight I have a few items to celebrate. Last week, the East Valley chapter of the Council for Exceptional Children celebrated members from TD3 for their support of the special education community. Congratulations to these deserving individuals. Outstanding exceptional student, Ivan Mercado Uwayo from Frank Elementary. Distinguished Service, Lauren Woodard from Fuller Elementary, and Outstanding Support Personnel, Valeria Key Rosa Alvarez, and I don't know the school that she was at. In celebration of Teacher Appreciation Week, culinary students from Connolly Middle School used their kitchen skills to prepare a taco bar lunch for their teachers. I'd like to take this time to thank and show appreciation for our hardworking teachers across the district. Every day, your work has the potential to make a lifelong impact in the lives of our students. Thank you for your dedication to education, Tempe Elementary students, and our community. Broadmoor Elementary students recently had the opportunity to step into the spotlight and explore TV reporting through ABC 15's Arizona Kidcasters program. During an assembly led by meteorologist Jorge Torres, 2nd and 5th grade students learned about weather and what it takes to deliver a forecast. Student council members then put their skills into practice by recording their own on-camera segments, introducing themselves, and sharing the day's high temperature. On Monday, an interview with Broadmoor Principal Lisa Maliki aired on ABC 15, and additional student weather reports from Broadmoor will continue to be featured throughout the year. And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this evening.
Wonderful, thank you, Dr. Driscoll. Item 701, presentation of the 2026-2027 interest-based negotiation agreement. We're going to turn it over to our Chief Operating Officer, our COO, Assistant Superintendent Michael Mangini.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll. This, as you know, is one of my favorite evenings because we've come to the conclusion of our IBN negotiations. We've gone through our ratification process, which I'll explain, and now we bring it to you guys tonight for approval. So I want to start out, obviously, previous meetings, we had the opportunity to introduce our IBN team for the year. For our TD3 administration, myself, Mr. Thompson, we had Colleen Homan, principal of Spicali, Matt Strauss, principal of Aguilar, who's homesick, and Colleen Love, principal of Curry, as part of our team. On the TEA side, we had Allie Holden, who is here, Kelly Balusik, Taylor Webb, Sean Coker. None of them could make it tonight. They all wanted to be here but couldn't be here. But we also had Shannon Wilson, teacher at Fuller. And this next person is part of my public apology because when we introduced the IBN team to you many months ago, I forgot her. She was here in the audience and I didn't recognize her. So round of applause for Christina Palmer. We had a just outstanding team. I'll give again just a little bit of history. We've been part of the IBN process for over 20 years. I know many of you that have been new to the board when you came in learned about our process with slight disbelief because we are a very high functioning team. And one of the things that we do is we put our differences aside for the conversation, much like the board, to say, well, what's best for the entirety of our district? And so this year was no different. Both sides came together. What the conversation entails is the conversation around salaries, benefits, and working conditions. And so we go through the survey, and the team is here to attest. We read every single line in the survey. thousands of comments that come our way from employees throughout the system. Good, bad, and everything in between. And we go through those and we create stories. And we look and we determine what's in our purview to say, how can we help the working conditions, salaries, and benefits for our employees? So this year, this is just our process. So anytime we want to make a recommendation that's within our purview, what our team does is we run it through our standards. And so we have to ask ourselves, and the team has to agree, is it administratively feasible, professionally credible, publicly acceptable, legally defensible, economically affordable, and sellable? And so we run everything through those factors. If they meet that criteria, then we move it forward. Okay, so just as a side note here, last year when we were with you, the IBN team made a recommendation to do a market compensation study. That study is actually nearing completion. So the team knew that we didn't have finalized information for this year's cycle, but it's near completion. We should have more information by July. And so it'll still guide further discussions into next year's cycle as well. And plus, HR will have an opportunity to disseminate some of that information and start making recommendations. The other factor that was unique to this year is obviously the information that was shared with you as governing board members. We used the budget recommendations from the January 7th meeting where we recommended the $7 million in budget discussions. And so, to meet that $7 million deficit, we utilized those recommendations as part of our process. And so in looking at that, here's the slide from those recommendations. The one area that we were actually able to have discussion about and bring to you guys tonight was the reduction of one paid workday for all employees. The price tag on that was $408,000. The team had a lot of discussion around this, and so it's going to be part of our presentation, is that this was one of our talking points. So what we were also able to do based on, again, recommendations from that January 7th meeting, is that we were able to get to a point where we can make a recommendation for a 2% raise for all of our employees. The team will attest, at the beginning of our process, we didn't think it was going to be possible. You hate to start a negotiations process that feels kind of doom and gloom, a little bleak. It was. It was a little bit bleak, but through the process and talking through things, and then of course Mr. Thompson called it a teaser in his presentation. Really, it was the whole story. The projections came in better than we anticipated, and so some of those recommendations that were made, we actually could pivot and make different recommendations to you as a board. So within that 2%, I'm not going to go through and read through, but all certified staff members, specifically listed in this category here, will receive a 2% raise. And on the classified side, we have all classified employees will receive a 2% raise. The only caveat to that is we do have some nutrition services managers, some staff that we did address in this cycle, partially because this is one of the things we pride ourselves on, is trying to address every single employee group. And this is several years of advocacy from our Director of Nutritional Services. And so the team had the opportunity this year to address this group. So that's why you will see them as a separate group that was addressed in this year's cycle, and well-deserving. So everything else on there would be things that we would continue. Again, we will continue to fund educational increments, as we know that's very important to our employees. And then anything that changed, we updated our miscellaneous rate schedule and any kind of stipend rates. Okay, obviously we have an insurance trust committee that makes recommendations to you guys as a governing board, but we also bring those recommendations to the IBN team so that we can get a holistic view of everything that we do. So we highlight this for all of our staff so that they can see that we are going to have a contribution increase of $300, but that cost will be absorbed by the district and will not impact employees directly. So again, that is absorbed by the district, no cost to our employees. And we will continue to still offer the plans that we offer. And a shameless plug, I will say, remember that open enrollment is actually happening now. So for staff, the 7 people again that are listening, Please recognize that. The other part too is Arizona State Retirement System and the contributions there. Those rates actually decreased from 12% to 11.98%. So that's newsworthy in itself. Okay, well, after going through the process that we talked about with our presentation of our process and ratification, we've reached an agreement. Tentative agreement gets sent to Dr. Driscoll for approval. It gets sent to you as the board. What we do is we send out, so you guys can recall, we send out the tentative draft agreement to our staff. They get to vote on it. They vote on both our IBN agreement and our classroom site fund. And so I will share with you guys. This is a really great graph to see here. But do you approve the IBN agreement? It passed with almost 97% approval. That's one of the highest percentages that we've had, so we're very happy to share that. And 3% no. As far as classroom site fund goes, we had a 98.85 approval for that. And so it looks like a total of 7 people, hopefully not our viewers, but 7 people said no to that one. So tonight, here's our recommendation, is that we request that the board approves our 26-27 IBN agreement, and we request that you approve the 26-27 classroom site fund plan, formerly known as 301. So, and of course, thank you again, Dr. Driscoll, and our board for the continued support. And I'll open it up to any questions you might have.
Mr. Cherry.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for that, Mike. I appreciate it. I just want to say I thank you so much for working to make sure that everybody is compensated the same. Everyone's getting 2% raises here. When we hear about cutting things, you always hear like there's all this waste at the top. We need to cut from the district office. We need to cut administration and everything. And as a boots on the ground classroom teacher, I can tell you we need all these people. We need even administrators. We need all of you. I don't have time for literally anything. I have 30 kids in a classroom. I'm doing this right now. There's nothing I can do. I need to be able to do, sometimes kids need things. They have to go to the nurse. Sometimes the kid's acting out. I need help. I need security guards. We need to make sure these kids are well fed. We need all of these people, especially nutrition services. I'm trying to single people out as being more important than the other, and I just can't. Yeah. I just can't. So, as somebody who is in the classroom, I assure you I'm not more important than any of these other people. We need everyone. Everyone's equal in this, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Ms. Ewers.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is custodial wasn't on here, but it's because we made that change to do that with third party. How is that going, and are they meeting the standards that we were asking them to?
Yes, so thank you for pointing that out. So I will say custodians would receive the 2%. However, we delineated between night custodian and lead custodian. So it's the night custodians that will be part of the outsourcing. And so things are going great. They're actually, the company that we're outsourcing with actually came and met with all of our employees that were impacted, gave them orientation, onboarding of what that will look like. Followed up with our director, Kevin Davidson. He said it was outstanding. They hit a home run, and they're taking care of our employees.
I hope so, because there are unsung heroes. And then I just would like to repeat this more for my personal privilege, because during the summer when I'm usually on vacation, most often when I'm sitting on the beach, I have to call you and say, did someone make a change to the healthcare plan? We are still offering a no-cost solution to all of our employees for healthcare.
That is correct.
I did hear you say that, but I just would like to make a repeat for others in the education world that Tempe still offers a no-cost
No cost.
healthcare solution for all of our employees.
Correct.
Thank you. And thank you, team. You guys did a really good job taking care of everybody as best you could. I know it's a hard job.
All right, I don't see any other lights. That doesn't mean you can leave yet.
Oh, perfect.
But, I mean, man, you were ready to go.
He was out.
I'm a little offended.
No, I love this.
I just want to identify, I know
Yeah.
all of your team wears multiple hats, but I don't know if you guys know that Colleen Love not only is principal, not only IBN, she's also traffic control and construction supervision. And I've seen her in action. She does an amazing job with that, so.
And
I
I'd
know
like to point
everybody
out.
manages a lot,
And
but,
we don't have a stipend for that. I'd want to.
oh, not on the miscellaneous rate schedule. Okay, good to know. I'll just wave. And I wanted to reiterate what, Board Member Terry just said about, you know, when we do make cuts in certain areas, I hope everybody knows that that means you absorb things in places that you're not used to doing jobs. Or not doing jobs, not doing other jobs. So I just hope that everybody gives a lot of grace and understanding and asks for help where needed, but understands that we have less hands to do some of the work. So, all right, we are done now.
Okay.
You may sit down, COO.
Thank you much. Thank you.
And we'll jump right to 702, which is discussion, consideration, and possible approval to adopt the 26-27 interest-based negotiation agreement with the miscellaneous rate schedules between Tempe School District Number 3 and Tempe Elementary Education Association and the 26-27 Classroom Site Fund Plan. May I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we support that.
Second.
Nice summary. Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, item passes. Good job. And having been one of those board members who express disbelief that this could happen, this is the 8th year of watching it. Good job. Very good job. You proved me wrong. All right. Again, you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go home. All right, item 801. We do not have any blue cards, so there will be no public comment today. Item 901. Discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the final revision of the fiscal year 26, really. The 25-26 annual expenditure budget. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. Good job. Item 903, discussion, consideration, and possible approval for the annual comprehensive financial report, single audit report, and USFR compliance questionnaire. Mr. Thompson, you have a presentation for us.
I'm back. All right. Thank you, President Windsor, members of the board, for having me again. All right, this is the annual audit reports. We do this every year. So it is required by law. It is hold on to your seats. It is a funded mandate from the state. Part of the funding formula includes the cost of the audit. So I think it's the only funded mandate I've seen in the state, but we do get paid for that. I didn't change these. Yeah, I did not change these slides from last year, but I thought it was funny because we mentioned the roll call vote and we had the discussion about the policy change. So we mentioned it before, so however you would like to vote on it. It does say roll call vote on that afterward. So there are 3 audits really that you're going to be looking at. So there was the financial statement audit, the single audit, which looks at federal funds, and the USFR compliance questionnaire. So the financial statement audit, that's an unmodified opinion. That's what you want. So there were no financial statement findings for that. I do say a boring audit is the best audit. You don't want exciting stuff in there. So they'll look at financial transactions, internal controls. They also base it on materiality. So if there's a $20 transaction that's wrong, I will be honest, the auditors do not care. If there's a $20 million transaction, they care a lot. They do a lot of work on the internal controls to make sure that people are reviewing things and you can't go in and make transactions that shouldn't happen. And again, they look at whether we can do something, not whether we should do something. So we could buy tons of things that is allowed. The auditors don't care about that. They just say, yep, it's allowable. They don't do a judgment call on it. So they're just looking to see, is this fraudulent? Is this allowed? That's the extent of it. It's not a performance audit. The single audit that we have every year, we have to have this if we have more than $750,000 in expenses from federal programs, which we have much more than that, more than $20 million. So the 2 programs they looked at was Title I, and then the program we've never had before, the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles Program, which is the electric buses. So I believe we have the largest electric bus fleet in the state. I know Levine has a lot as well, but I think we have more. But we bought them basically about half price because the grant is paying for about 45 to 50% of them. But that is federal funds, so that is on the single audit. So they looked at that program. And it was probably a little harder than what we would normally have just because it is such a unique program. Like the Title I IDEA, we do that every year. We know that. We had never had a grant through the EPA for, which covered the chargers and the buses. There had to be Davis-Bacon Act as far as prevailing wages. So we had to get more documentation for that. So it was just something that we had not normally done, but they had no issues with it. So it was all clean on that. There was a internal control finding that they had for an untimely reconciliation of one of our bank accounts. It was kind of a convergence of problems. We had a new system, so we went to the new website. We switched over our payments to, I don't know if it doesn't matter which one, Blue Snap was the new vendor that we had. We also had an employee transitioning out, and so that combination of a new employee and a new system caused problems. We did not get things reconciled as quickly as the auditors would have liked. So we've corrected that issue. We've made some changes. We've submitted those, corrective action plan to the state, and it's moved on. But that was one thing recommendation they had, and we have taken steps to improve that. The USFR questionnaire is it's a yes/no questionnaire. And there's 160 questions on there. Some of them are not applicable. There might be high school related questions where for our district they just skip over, but there is a lot of questions. And there's not gray area on it. It's, did you do this? Yes, no. So we had 5 findings last year. We have 4 findings this year. As someone who did this work before I came to Tempe, this is a very low number of findings. And I'm not just saying that because it's our district. I mean, if it's under 10, that is pretty low. So we had 3 findings in attendance, which is the most common spot for findings. And then we had a finding for timely deposit. So all deposits have to be deposited within 7 days. And it doesn't matter if it's, all right, here's the Friday before Christmas, needs to be deposited within 7 days. So on those attendance findings, 4 of them were partial day miscalculations. So that would be like if the student arrived at 10:15, they should calculate, okay, is that a quarter day absence, is that a half day absence? And some of those were miscalculated on that. The total membership and absences from ADE, that was the most common finding I ever saw as an auditor. They're always, to reconcile all those days, they tend to be off by a little bit. And then proof of Arizona residency, that one, the state requires that you are an Arizona resident to provide education. So that really would mean someone would be driving in from Utah or New Mexico and coming in and getting our services. I don't really think that's happening. I think this is a bigger issue if you are a Yuma or a Bullhead City or a Window Rock. Technically, the statute says you need to have proof of Arizona residency upon enrollment. We don't. I think we would prefer to have the students in classroom rather than come back next week when you have proof of Arizona residency. But it is technically, we should have that. So there were a few that we did not have. And one thing, when people think of residency, they might think legal status and whatnot. That has nothing to do with it. It just needs to be you live in Arizona and you have the documentation of that. There are exceptions for it if they are McKinney-Vento, unhoused, such as that.
Thank you, Madam President. Going back to the findings about attendance, do they do a sampling or do they look at every day 9,000 students?
So they'll do both. So for the absences, they do a sampling. So that's where 4 of the 15, that they sampled. 4 of them were miscalculated. For the total absences and memberships, it is the total number for the entire year.
Okay, but they looked at 15 different students, and then 4 of them,
For the partial day absence
Yeah,
finding,
yeah.
they sampled 15.
okay, thank you. Well, wait a minute. Is that a legitimate sample?
It's not it is the prescribed number in the USFR.
And that's
Madam
because,
President, that was my question. I said,
but
is it a legitimate sampling technique?
I believe the reason why is that it's not a percentage of the population, it's an actual number written in USFR, right?
Correct.
So they had to keep it low because there's small districts as well,
Okay,
so.
Yeah, it's not a scientific sample in the sense that, all right, this is gonna give you a good view of the entire district. When they do the internal control samples, because they'll do testing for that as well, that is based on more of a formula, a stratified samples population that they do. For this, the USFR tells them exactly how many to test.
thank you.
Ms. Ewers has a question.
I don't want to interrupt you, like, kind of going through this, but I don't want to get off of the findings question. One, I know that at the state legislature, they were proposing that we were going to stop getting paid for half-days and after an hour, and blah, 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 blah. And luckily, I believe we've concluded that that's been canned, right?
Yes, for the,
Okay, because that would have made this even another wow. But my question is, when the families come back to school, so like the back-to-school curriculum nights, all of that, we meet in, or meet your teacher night, we meet usually in the gym, and we go over some of the rules, and it's blah, 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 after the 6 years, it's the same thing. Is there a way to look at educating our families on the administrative costs and the stress of the front desk and administration on keeping track of lates and dentist appointments and this and that, and how just a few hours can jeopardize how we're audited? It gets kind of confusing, I know, but I don't think our families understand that when, Miss Sally is calling them and saying, we really need to get them to school on time, or I know you're only 5 minutes late, but blah, 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 and it's stopping and more work and all of that. I don't think there's enough respect or they don't know this is happening. Awareness. They don't know that it's just my kid times just my kid at 21 schools times 5 others times. I know we don't have money to do wraparound education, but I would really like to stress home that there's a responsibility that we all have in keeping our schools open, and that's showing up and on time so that our kids can learn. Just putting that in here because I think this is the appropriate time to show how it could truly, really affect us. Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. I just had the summary. So, financial statement audit, that was clean. We did have the internal control finding over the late reconciliation for the bank account. And then we had the 4 findings on the USFR. There were 5 last year, so we're going in the right direction. And 6 before that, so we will be... I'm gonna front load it and say we're going with a new audit firm next year. The cycle has come through, and whenever you have a new audit firm, they tend to look at different things. So if I were a betting man, I would say that the number would probably go up. And it might be the exact same stuff that we did before, but the auditors are looking at it differently, and so they might catch more this time than they did before. I think the trend is usually higher number of audit findings in the first year, and then you figure out what they're looking for, and they go down, and then you get a new auditor, and it goes back up. So I'd love to say 3, but I'm realistic.
Ms. Ewers?
Are charter schools and private schools required to go through such audits also?
Charter schools have audits. They have the charter school questionnaire, which is much shorter. I do not believe that private schools have to go through any audits.
Can I just tag on to it? Private schools do get audited for equitable services through title funds. They audit the public school district that has to be the pass-through entity. Yes. And they're held liable for that private school. Mr. Miller?
That is true.
Thank you, Madam President. I just kind of want to make you repeat it. This is a funded mandate?
The audit actually is a funded mandate.
Interesting, interesting.
So in the funding formula, it asks how much were your audit expenses last year? And then you put it in there and it pops in an extra $38,000. So,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
good.
it's
Fun.
it's
Look how
interesting.
much joy it brought me to hear you
I'm
say that.
glad.
In case one of the 7 people's a state legislator, look how much happiness, funding schools is so much fun. Thank you.
I feel like it's right up there with deducting the tax preparation fee for the previous year, yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Thompson.
All right, thank you.
So we have had the presentation. Does anybody want to make a motion on this item? Oh, sorry, roll call. I have it literally written here, roll call vote. All right, so Mr. Terry, we don't do roll call here very often. Roll call, I feel like we need to drum on the dais or something.
You have to move it first.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Mr. Lemon, thank you.
Madam President, I make a motion that we approve the.
Can you turn on your microphone, Mr. Lemon?
Make a motion, we approve the annual compensation financial report, single audit report, and USFR compliance questionnaire.
Okay,
Second.
all right, and for this, we will be taking per policy.
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Lemon?
I approve.
Ms. Ewers?
I approve.
Mrs. Windsor? I approve. Item passes. All right, Ms. Ewers, do we have any reports from your standing committee?
You do not at this time, you will the next meeting.
Buckle up, we will have one next meeting. Okay, governing board member points of information. Mr. Terry, we can start with you if you have anything.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I meant to mention a couple meetings ago, I did get it all worked out in Tempe Union. I did get a job for next year. I'm very happy to report that. Yeah, thanks. Had some great opportunities to see some cool shows. My daughter was in the musical at McCamey. It was Your Good Man, Charlie Brown. It was great to see. They did a fantastic job with it. They had a live band. I'd never seen a live band at a middle school show before. It was very cool. And then last night I had the pleasure of hosting the Connolly Orchestra Band and Choir at McClintock. I was the site host for that. And I got to watch them all perform, and brand new orchestra teacher in her first year over there. The choir director's in her third year, and then of course Philip Lamar's in his 29th year. It's cool to catch up with Phil. It's just great to see the difference too in what a career veteran brings to the table, versus the green teachers. I mean, they were doing a great job, but you learn a thing or two after a while with doing this. So it was great to have Phil there, and it was just a great show and great to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. No. Mr. Lemon?
Thank you, Madam President. Last week I was able to go to a retirement ceremony at Shamley School. They had 3 people, longtime employees retiring. And of course, my friend, the Pat Thornton, the nurse who's been at Shamley or Laird for over 4 years. And she was at a couple other schools before that. So, a long history, and it was a good reception, and we saw a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Ms. Ewers?
Thank you, Madam President. One, congratulations and bravo to Your Good Man, Charlie Brown cast, and it's so extraordinary what our middle schoolers do. I mean, some of them are just better than the high school plays that we see. And bravo to your daughter. Just tell her I was so proud of her. And then right now, there's a basketball program going on in the middle schools, and it takes a lot of teachers and a lot of time and referees. And I want to thank everyone who's been involved in that and all of the other sports programs throughout the year. It takes an army to run these, and a lot of people don't get paid to do them. They do them because they want to do them, because our kids want it, and it's one of the reasons why our kids like to come to school. So I just want to thank them, and I also want to let Dr. Driscoll know, I'm not sure if you're aware that one of our schools, literally you can like almost hear fireworks and dun, 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 dun as they come in. There's a team that comes in, and I think they could probably take on a lot of the high schools in the state. So I'm just going to say that our kids, like we have some young kids that are coming up, and I'm pretty excited about what this next generation is going to do. The choir concerts, band concerts, we've got a lot of different things going on. We can't, as board members, be at every single one because some of them are at the same time. So I want to apologize for some that I can pick and choose. But first, I say bravo for one, showing up. And two, I love to hear how much better from start to finish, how a year, it's just incredible, right? And we hear it with our kids, but with the other kids too. I want to thank, again, you guys doing IBN. I canvass for candidates outside of our district in all different levels and in all different places. And this weekend, I was canvassing, and a door opened, and it was a teacher from another school district who was very disheartened and very angry and felt that the system that they used at their schools had trapped her, and she was 2 years from retirement. And I just sat there listening and knowing that this is not an uncommon story in our state. And she didn't even know that an IBN process was something, right? So unfortunately, my son, who went to campus for me for 2 hours, had to campus with me for 2 hours and 2 hours and 50 minutes. So when we left, he goes, whew, that was a door conversation. But I wanted her to know that there's other ways to do things. And I'm hoping that the 7 people who are watching maybe know somebody who's in another district, and maybe they too can run to be on the board of their association and start to request these things from their district so they have more say. And so I just want to thank the district for continuing this tradition of doing it this way, because it's a big deal. And people work for 20, 30 years to leave an industry where they feel they're getting like poo-pooed on. That is not cool. It's just not what I want to be a part of. And I know not every story is perfect here. I know it's not all freckles and sunshine, but I do also know that you all try your best to make it that way. So thank you for continuing to do that. And then I also would like to thank Dr. Driscoll and Mr. McGeaney, because you have been cited in the neighborhood of the construction. So I have been receiving texts and phone calls saying, well, there's been some men that have been walking around at different times in the days and the mornings and checking out the site. And then I looked at the pictures on the walls, and I got on the internet and I saw, that's our superintendent. So bravo to you, kudos to you. Thank you for showing up for the community, letting them know that you're there. Thank you for letting them know you're there, you're on site, you're looking at that. Thank Jen, because people are noticing it. They're also seeing that we're sweeping. They're also seeing that we're cleaning up the sidewalks. If we could have air purifiers there that just drove down the street, that would be awesome. But we don't want to waste taxpayer money on things that we know nature is going to do its best to help us with. So kudos to you. Thank you, and tell all the crew that I know they're not paid necessarily to be sidewalk sweepers, but it's highly recognized and appreciated. And then lastly, some of the things over the next couple weeks, I know schools have gotten used to me being there and coming to their stuff, and I want to let them know that it's not that, and like the reception last night, it's not that I'm not supporting that. It's that Arizona has a unique moment going on right now. The International Science Fair for the World is here in Arizona, and the world competitors and start to show up starting on Thursday, tomorrow. And so I will be there. I'm on the committee that helps run that fair, and I'm so excited that it's our home. And that is going to be the next about 9 days. It has been already the last 3 days, and 9 days of my life. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I also ask for a little forgiveness that I'm not able to put 100% attention for the next week or so here. Ms. Windsor knows that. We've got it all worked out, but there's going to be some cool economic energy coming to Arizona, so check it out and be kind to anybody who doesn't necessarily look exactly like we do, because they're coming from everywhere, from all around the world. And that's it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Ewers. A comment Mr. Lemon made this evening reminded me how we all use our strengths to ask questions and represent our community. When you asked about the sample size, I thought, oh, of course, the scientists would be asking about the appropriate sample size. So I want to thank actually all four of you for showing up and bringing your strengths and also being open to learning what we don't know. So thank you for that. It has been a Teacher Appreciation Week, right? Which I was like, is that right? And the reason why I say that is because it's Nurse Appreciation Week, and we have that represented in our house, and it's kind of nice that all the discounts run on the same week. But it also is in May when we don't have any time to go get them. So I've always been a little bit frazzled by that. But thank you to all the teachers, especially those who have taught my own personal children. You've made a world of difference and obviously done things that I can't do for them because they don't listen to me. And then I was walking into Connolly today because I had a child to be picked up for an injury. And I had a parent walk out and said, oh, we just had our last booster meeting of the year, and are you going to be at this event? And I thought, oh my goodness, there are still people who are just volunteering and helping move forward the work, whether they get a paycheck or not. Like, it's all for the kids, and I appreciate every one of them that helps support this process. Okay, with that, announcements and upcoming events, and we have a list, so bring out your pillow. I am not going to be reading the addresses. If they have a question about addresses, they can look it up. Tempe Diablo's Excellence in Education Awards ceremony will be tomorrow, May 7th at 7 p.m. in the showroom at Wild Horse Pass. Agenda Committee meeting will meet on Wednesday, May 13th at 11 a.m. The Thai Foundation Tee-Off for Kids and Teachers annual golf tournament is Tuesday, May 12th at 7:15 a.m. at the Papago Golf Club. The Tempe Elementary School's retirement reception will be Wednesday, May 13th at 6 p.m. at McCamey Academy of International Studies. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting will take place on Wednesday, May 20th at 7 p.m. here in the Karen Arredondo Governing Board Room. Memorial Day is Monday, May 25th. All schools in the district offices will be closed, but we're back the next day, so don't leave forever. The Mosley Middle School 8th grade promotion will be Wednesday, May 27th at 9:15 a.m. in the Mosley cafeteria. The McCamey Academy of International Studies 8th grade promotion will be Wednesday, May 27th at 5 p.m. at the Tempe High School auditorium. The Ward Traditional Academy 8th grade promotion will be Wednesday, May 27th at 5 p.m. in the Ward cafeteria. The Shamley School 8th grade promotion will be Thursday, May 28th at 8:30 a.m. in the Shamley School gymnasium. The Fees College Preparatory Middle School 8th grade promotion will be Thursday, May 28th at 9 a.m. in the Fees Blue Gymnasium. And the Connolly Middle School 8th grade promotion will be Thursday, May 28th at 9:30 a.m. in the Connolly Gym. The last day of school, drum roll please, Thursday, May 28th, 2026. Just to come back in a few weeks after that. 13:01, do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Terry, seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.